from sleeping on the floor of a bar to becoming a billionaire tech mogul and NBA owner. Mark Cuban's story isn't just about getting rich. It's about how a kid who was fired from every job he had managed to build multiple empires by breaking all the rules. But here's what's truly insane. His path to billions started with selling garbage bags door to door and eating nothing but ketchup sandwiches, and ended with a $5.7 billion deal that happened just months before everything crashed. This is the untold story of how Mark Cuban became one of the most controversial entrepreneurs in history. Chapter 1: The Hustler's DNA. In 1968, in a working class Pittsburgh neighborhood, 10-year-old Mark Cuban made his first business deal. But it wasn't selling lemonade or doing paper routes like other kids. He convinced his dad to let him buy a box of garbage bags from a wholesaler. Why? Because Cuban had realized something. Every single house in his neighborhood needed garbage bags, but they had to drive to the store to get them. So he went door to door offering a simple pitch. Hi, I'm Mark. You buy garbage bags at the store, right? Well, I can save you the trip and sell them cheaper. That early hustle would become Cuban's trademark, finding opportunities that were right in front of everyone else, but nobody saw. Chapter 2: Breaking all the rules. By age 16, Cuban was already skipping high school to take college classes. His teachers hated it, his parents worried. But Cuban had already learned his first major business lesson. Traditional paths were for traditional results, and he wanted anything but traditional. In college at Indiana University, Cuban turned his dorm room into a mini business empire. He started a disco dancing school despite barely knowing how to dance himself, ran a chain letter scheme that made thousands before getting shut down, and even convinced a bank to loan him $15,000 to buy a bar, despite being underage. The bar, called Motley's, became the most popular spot in town. But here's the crazy part. Cuban didn't spend a cent of his own money on it. He convinced investors to put up all the cash while he kept 51% ownership. This would become his signature move, using other people's money to build his empire while maintaining control. Chapter 3: The Painful Path to Millions. After college Judaism, Cuban landed what seemed like a dream job at a PC software company. Within 9 months, he was fired for closing a $15,000 deal without asking his boss's permission. The next job, fired again. The pattern kept repeating. Cuban was too ambitious, too aggressive, too unwilling to follow the rules. Finally, in 1983, with just $500 in his pocket, he started his own company called Micro Solutions. He didn't even have enough money for an apartment, so he slept on the floor of his office and lived off ketchup sandwiches. But Cuban had spotted another opportunity nobody else saw. Small businesses needed help understanding these new things called personal computers. He taught himself everything about PCs and networking, often staying up all night reading manuals. Then he'd turn around and consult for companies the next day, basically learning on their dime. By 1990, Micro Solutions had grown to $30 million in revenue. CompuServe acquired it for $6 million. Cuban was finally a millionaire. But instead of buying a mansion or fancy car, he did something that seemed crazy at the time. Chapter 4: The $5.7 billion bet. He bought a lifetime airline pass and spent the next few years traveling the world, partying, and watching technology evolve. That's when Cuban spotted his biggest opportunity yet. It was 1995, and people were just starting to talk about this thing called the internet. Cuban and his friend Todd Wagner had a simple idea. What if you could listen to Indiana basketball games online? They started a company called AudioNet, later renamed Broadcast.com, from Cuban's spare bedroom. The idea was to stream audio and video over the internet, something that seems obvious now but was revolutionary then. But here's where Cuban's genius for timing came in. He realized the internet stock market was in a massive bubble. Companies with no profit were being valued at billions, so he rushed to take Broadcast.com public in 1998. The stock went from $18 to $62.75 on its first day, the biggest first-day gain in IPO history at that time. But Cuban knew this couldn't last, so he pulled off his most brilliant move yet. In 1999, he convinced Yahoo to buy Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion in Yahoo stock. Then, before the stock could crash, he hedged his entire position using complex options trades. When the dot-com bubble burst months later, Cuban had already protected his billions. Chapter 5: The Maverick Billionaire. In 2000, Cuban bought the Dallas Mavericks NBA team for $285 million. The team had been one of the worst in sports for a decade. But Cuban did something no other owner had done. He treated it like a tech startup. He gave players luxury locker rooms with flat-screen TVs, unheard of at the time, bought a custom Boeing 757 so tall players could travel comfortably, and sat courtside screaming at refs instead of hiding in a luxury box, the NBA fined him over $2 million for his outbursts. But the Mavericks went from being worth $285 million to over $3 billion today. This pattern has defined Cuban's entire career, breaking rules, spotting opportunities others miss, and turning failing businesses into gold mines. Today, Cuban is worth over $6 billion. He's a star on Shark Tank, owner of a pharmaceutical company trying to disrupt drug prices, and still looking for the next big thing. But perhaps the most remarkable part? He still says his best skill is something he learned, selling garbage bags as a kid, understanding what customers want before they know they want it. If you enjoyed this story of hustle and entrepreneurship,